I'm Chef Curtiss Hemm. Welcome to the Carriage House Cooking School. Today we're going to make a traditional northern Italian dumpling called Passatelli, which is simply breadcrumbs. I'm using panko in this instance, with Parmesan cheese, eggs, some lemon, touch of olive oil, salt, pepper. We're going to poach that in a Brodo, which is a thick seasoned broth. So in this case, I'm using chicken broth with a lot of salt and pepper and seasoning. And we're going to mix this. We're going to let the starch gelatinize, which basically means that we're going to let the starch absorb the liquid from the eggs. And then we're going to poach it after a little bit of a rest. We're going to shape it and poach it into the broth of the Brodo. And then we're going to serve it in a bowl like a really hearty stew, perfect for a cold day, autumn weather, winter, hanging out by a wood stove type of thing. So we're going to start off with our panko. This is a really good universal breadcrumb I like. What I have here is a dough whisk. This is a tool that gives me a lot of control and structure. It's a thick looped whisk that has its tines go at least halfway back. This is an invaluable tool for bread baking or making dumplings or anything like that. I'm going to take my Parmesan and Pecorino. I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to mix it up. I'm not worried if I have lumps of this because when I shape it and form it, it's going to break apart. I want to get my lemon zest. This is a microplane. And I'm just going around grabbing the yellow zest, the rind from the lemon. And this is going to make for a really fragrant dumpling when it cooks in the Brodo. And if I wanted to add a splash of lemon juice at the end of the dish, I would use these lemons here, because I would have loosened up all the juice and the structure of the lemon. I think that's enough. We're going to add a little bit of salt to this. We've seasoned our Brodo as well. So now I'm going to mix that lemon zest in there. You can already smell how wonderful it is. And now I'm going to take and I'm going to add my eggs. So I like to crack my egg on a flat surface so I get a clean edge. Be assertive with it, and that way you can one hand crack like so. Take those, put those away. Now I'm going to take with my dough whisk, I'm going to mix this, and eventually I'll move to my hands. And you can already see in this that the breadcrumbs are absorbing the moisture from the eggs and the egg whites. But I want to make sure I get a really uniform product. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix this with my hands. So I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to start bringing this together. I can feel the dryness of the panko, and what I'm looking for is for this to soften up over time. Now I used a really fine grated Parmesan cheese and Pecorino cheese. But if you wanted to use larger pieces and form these by hand, you could do that as well. But the trick here is to work that liquid into the breadcrumb for a rather loose dough, because there's two ways to do this. We can do this and rub it and kind of fraction it, kind of break it into particles like that once it's gelatinized, or we can push it through a potato ricer, which is one of the things we're going to do today. So I like to get to this point, maybe squeeze it a little bit more, and then I like to give it about a 30-minute rest. Cover it with plastic wrap, let it kind of sit. Let that breadcrumb absorb as much of the liquid as possible. And then if you find that's a little too dry, we're going to serve a Pinot Grigio with this. Maybe go ahead and add a little bit of wine to that. But give it time. Don't jump the gun on this one. You want to make sure that you have time for the starch to gelatinize. We can already see kind of the dough ball we have. And I'll give you another tip. This makes a really good pizza crust. So we're going to let that sit for a bit, and then we're going to come back, and once we're done, we're going to push it through a potato ricer directly into the Brodo, and we're going to have these beautiful little Passatelli dumplings. See you soon. All right, so we have our Brodo. We want to make sure that we season it well. I'm going to put some freshly cracked black pepper in there, a pinch of salt. Now, this is a potato ricer, and what I want to do is I want to take our Passatelli dough, and I want to put it in the potato ricer. And then I'm going to take it And I'm going to extrude it, fingers crossed. You may have to do this in small batches, just depending on how your wrist strength is. This is great to do with stale bread too. You don't have to buy breadcrumbs if you don't want to. But for many people, less in the pasta, in the potato ricer is better because you really need to squeeze that tight. And this is certainly enough for 4 people as an appetizer, small dinner with a green salad, or even like shaved pear and gorgonzola would be a great combination to go with this. I'll do 2 more small batches. And just like gnocchi, when it kind of floats, give it a minute. And don't cheap out on a potato ricer. Buy one that's going to match your strength because it's very frustrating when it breaks. You could also buy a spatzel press that goes over the pot and you kind of shave off the passatelli. And so now we're just going to grab a spoon. We're going to stir our dough. It's okay if this falls apart a little bit, not that big of a deal. What I am going to do in the bottom of my bowl though, I'm going to put some Parmesan cheese. This is just shaved Parmesan. And I'm going to put a little bit of black pepper, pinch of salt, and I want to take that lemon, get rid of the seed, and I want to just do a fresh little squeeze of lemon juice in there. Then I'm going to get a ladle because I want to serve this with the broth. Takes about 2 minutes and it's basically a soup. So we don't want to stir this too much because you'll break up the passatelli. And like I said, we've got a Pinot Grigio. This is from Alto Adige in the northern part of Italy. A really lean, well-structured wine, crisp, well-chilled, very aromatic, but again, I would still say very lean, very mineral. Broth and all. And then I would still, if you wanted to add a little bit of a fat, I would go really nice olive oil right around the top. And there you go, Passatelli. I'm Chef Curtiss Hemm of the Carriage House Cooking School. Thank you for joining us. If you like the recipe for this beautiful Passatelli, go to mountainlake.org or carriagehousecookingschool.com.